It was an ordinary morning at the city airport, the kind of day that most people would not notice for anything special. The sun was just rising, spilling golden light across the tarmac, and the sound of engines warming up filled the air. Travelers hurried along the terminal, dragging their suitcases and checking flight information screens. For most people, it was just another travel day, but for some, the day was about to take a completely unexpected turn. Flight 472, a small commercial plane heading to a nearby city, was preparing for takeoff. Inside the cockpit, Captain Harris, a man with over 20 years of experience in the air, carefully ran through his pre-flight checklist. He tapped buttons, checked gauges, and spoke quietly into the radio, communicating with the control tower. His co-pilot, Lieutenant Young, a younger pilot learning the ropes, followed his instructions with calm focus. Both of them were used to the humdrum of daily flights, guiding passengers safely from one city to another. They had never imagined that today the ordinary would become extraordinary. Passengers began boarding the plane. Families with children, business travelers with laptops, and older couples looking forward to a visit somewhere warm all made their way down the aisle. They smiled politely at the flight attendants, stowed their luggage, and buckled their seatbelts. Some chatted quietly, some stared at their phones, and some just looked out the window, watching the busy airport activity. Nobody suspected that danger was hiding in plain sight, quietly waiting to be discovered. Meanwhile, Officer Ramirez, a police officer with the airport's security unit, was making his usual rounds. At his side was Max, his German Shepherd, a police dog trained to detect threats, drugs, and explosives. Max was not just any dog. He had worked on countless cases before, sniffing out hidden dangers with almost magical accuracy. Officer Ramirez trusted Max completely. Every time Max showed even the slightest hint of suspicion, Ramirez knew it was worth investigating. Today, the officer and his dog were assigned to patrol near the boarding gates, where flights like 472 were preparing to leave. Max, always alert, moved his nose from side to side, sniffing the air with careful attention. Suddenly, his ears perked up and he let out a low growl that was subtle but distinct. Officer Ramirez noticed immediately. "What is it, boy?" he whispered. Max stayed tense, his body stiff, eyes focused on a particular area near the boarding gate. Ramirez followed Max's gaze, trying to understand what had caught the dog's attention. It was a cargo container being loaded into Flight 472. On the surface, the container looked normal. It was just a plain box marked with standard shipping labels. But Max's behavior told a different story. The dog's hackles rose, his tail stiffened, and he pawed at the ground with urgency. Ramirez knew from years of experience that Max did not alert for nothing. The K9's instincts were finely tuned, and the fact that he was so fixated on this single container meant it deserved immediate attention. Ramirez called the airport security team over. "I need permission to inspect that container," he said firmly. The airline staff looked surprised. "It's already loaded," one employee said, "but if your dog insists..." Reluctantly, they agreed, understanding that the K9 units were trained for such situations. Ramirez led Max toward the container, his heart beating faster as he realized how serious the situation could be. Max approached the container cautiously, sniffing every inch. He circled it, moving back and forth, then barked sharply. Ramirez nodded. The K9 had confirmed what he already suspected. Something dangerous, or at least suspicious, was inside. The officer carefully opened the container, making sure to keep a safe distance. Inside, beneath layers of packaging material, was a concealed package that had clearly been hidden on purpose. The way it was wrapped suggested that whoever placed it there did not want it to be noticed. When Ramirez examined the package, he realized it contained illegal substances. It was contraband, the type that could cause harm or be used for criminal activity. The sight of it made the officer's heart race. He knew that if the plane had taken off with this hidden cargo, the consequences could have been severe. Hundreds of passengers might have been at risk, and the authorities would have been facing a potential disaster. Max, by sensing the danger, had prevented a situation that could have escalated beyond imagination. Passengers continued boarding, unaware of what was happening. Children laughed, couples chatted, and business travelers focused on their laptops. To them, it was just another morning at the airport. But behind the scenes, Officer Ramirez and Max worked quickly and carefully to secure the container. Ramirez called his supervisor, explaining the situation in precise words. Authorities were informed, and a team was dispatched to handle the illegal package safely. While the officers dealt with the cargo, Max remained alert. His instincts had not been satisfied yet. Something told him that this was not the end of the threat. He paced slightly, sniffing the air around the boarding area. Ramirez watched him closely, trusting the dog's judgment completely. Max had a history of detecting hidden dangers that humans might overlook. His nose and intuition often led officers to discoveries that could prevent accidents or worse. Meanwhile, inside the cockpit, Captain Harris and his co-pilot continued their pre-flight preparations, unaware of the commotion outside. They checked the flight systems, confirmed fuel levels, and reviewed the flight path. Everything seemed normal, as it always did before a routine flight. But Ramirez knew that time was of the essence. He could not allow the plane to take off until the potential threat was fully assessed. Finally, the security team completed their inspection of the container. The contraband was safely removed, and the immediate danger was contained. Ramirez patted Max on the head. "Good work, boy," he said quietly. Max wagged his tail slightly but remained alert, as if sensing that the day was not over yet. The dog's dedication to safety was unwavering, and Ramirez knew that they had only just begun to uncover what could have been a larger problem. As the passengers took their seats, Max and Ramirez observed quietly from outside the plane. Ramirez noticed that Max's attention shifted toward the cockpit door. The dog's ears twitched and he let out another alert bark, different from the one at the container. It was sharper, more insistent. Ramirez followed Max's gaze and realized that the dog had detected something unusual inside the plane itself. Something that might not be obvious to anyone else, but which could pose a serious risk. Ramirez knew that this required immediate action. He carefully opened the cabin door, letting Max enter. Passengers watched curiously, wondering why a police dog was walking toward the front of the plane. Flight attendants tried to calm them, assuring everyone that it was just a routine security check. But Ramirez's mind was focused. Max's behavior told him that something was hidden in the plane, something that could have dangerous consequences if not discovered. Inside the cabin, Max moved quickly but carefully. He sniffed along the aisle, paying attention to luggage, seats, and even the small spaces around the cockpit door. His training guided him, combining instinct with learned behavior. Ramirez followed closely, his eyes scanning for any signs of trouble. It was tense, quiet, and critical work. One wrong move could create panic or risk the safety of everyone aboard. As Max approached the cockpit, he barked sharply, then stared at a specific spot near the co-pilot's seat. Ramirez leaned closer, noticing a small bag that had been left unattended. The bag looked harmless, but Max's reaction suggested otherwise. Ramirez carefully opened it and found another concealed package, this one wrapped with unusual care. His heart raced. The situation was more serious than he had initially thought. Max, alert and precise, had just led Ramirez to a discovery that could have had dire consequences. The dog's ability to detect danger, combined with Ramirez's careful handling, had already prevented one disaster and now had the potential to prevent another. The morning that had started like any other was now unfolding into a remarkable story of courage, instinct, and quick thinking. Even passengers who had noticed Max's presence felt a mix of curiosity and unease. Little did they know the police dog had already prevented a potentially serious threat. Captain Harris, focused on his instruments, had no idea that the calm and orderly start to the flight was being quietly saved by a four-legged hero. Ramirez, understanding the stakes, stayed alert, knowing that the day was far from over, and that Max's instincts might be the key to preventing something even more dangerous. The airport was abuzz with quiet tension. Authorities had been notified. Passengers remained largely unaware, and the plane was still on the ground, safe for now. Max, standing near the cockpit, seemed almost to understand the gravity of the situation. His gaze never wavered, his ears never relaxed, and his body remained poised for action. Ramirez watched him with deep respect, knowing that this dog had an ability to protect that went beyond training. It was instinct, courage, and intelligence combined in a single heroic presence. And so, the ordinary morning continued to unfold in a way that no one could have predicted. A routine flight, regular passengers, and everyday procedures had been transformed into a scene of quiet suspense and extraordinary heroism. Max, the police dog, had already proven himself, but the day's events were far from over. What would happen next? No one could be sure. As Flight 472 remained on the tarmac, the tension outside and inside the cabin grew. Officer Ramirez kept a firm grip on Max's leash, while the German Shepherd's eyes stayed locked on the cockpit. Max's instincts were telling him that the situation was far from over. Ramirez knew that he had to act carefully. One wrong move could frighten the passengers, create chaos, or even give any potential criminal a chance to escape. Every step had to be precise, measured, and thoughtful. Passengers continued to settle into their seats, some glancing around nervously at the unusual presence of a police dog and his handler. Flight attendants moved quietly through the aisle, whispering reassurances to nervous travelers. "It's just a routine security check," one flight attendant said with a calm smile, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of concern. Children clutched their parents' hands, sensing the tension in the air. Nobody could have guessed that Max had already prevented a serious problem outside the plane, and was now on the trail of another potential threat inside. Max sniffed around the co-pilot's seat, growling softly as he examined the small bag that had drawn his attention. Officer Ramirez knelt beside the German Shepherd, speaking quietly. "Easy, boy. Show me what's inside," he said, guiding Max to the bag. With careful hands, Ramirez opened the zipper, revealing a tightly wrapped package. It was clear that someone had gone to great lengths to hide it. The wrapping was thick and layered, making it look like an ordinary bag from the outside. But Max's reaction made it clear that this was anything but ordinary. The contents of the package sent a shiver down Ramirez's spine. Inside were several small, carefully assembled devices. At first glance, they could have been mistaken for harmless electronics, but the officer's training and experience immediately told him otherwise. Each device had tiny wires and unusual components, clearly built for a purpose that was dangerous. The thought of them being in the air on a plane carrying passengers made his heart race. One wrong spark or movement could have had disastrous consequences. Ramirez quickly radioed the control tower. "We have a potentially dangerous device on board Flight 472. I need immediate assistance and a specialized response team. The passengers are still on board, but we need to act fast." His voice was calm, but the urgency was unmistakable. Within minutes, a team of airport security specialists, including bomb technicians, arrived, moving quickly but carefully toward the plane. Max remained at Ramirez's side, alert and ready, his senses finely tuned to detect anything unusual. Inside the cockpit, Captain Harris noticed the arrival of additional security personnel outside the plane. He frowned slightly, unsure of what had triggered the unusual attention. He trusted the airport's security team, knowing that they were professionals, but the sight of officers running toward his plane made him uneasy. Harris had flown countless flights, handled minor emergencies, and navigated unexpected situations before. But this was different. The calm morning had shifted into a tense, high-stakes moment, and the pilot could sense that the ordinary rules of the day no longer applied. Max's attention, however, did not waver from the package. His nose twitched as he sniffed around the cockpit, testing the air in the bag carefully. Ramirez knew that Max's behavior was not random. The dog was telling him that the package was dangerous, that it had been deliberately hidden, and that it needed to be handled with extreme caution. The airport bomb technicians arrived and began carefully examining the package, guided by Ramirez's calm instructions and Max's focused alertness. The passengers were becoming more aware of the unusual activity. Murmurs filled the cabin as some travelers craned their necks to see the officers and the dog near the cockpit. Flight attendants moved among the rows, trying to keep people calm. "Please remain seated," one announced gently. "The officers are ensuring everyone's safety. There's nothing to worry about." Despite the reassurance, the tension in the cabin was palpable. Some passengers whispered to one another, trying to make sense of the unusual scene, while children stared wide-eyed at Max, who seemed both heroic and mysterious to them. As the bomb specialists carefully unwrapped the package, Max continued to monitor every movement. His ears twitched at the slightest sound, his body remained alert, and his gaze never left the devices. Ramirez patted him lightly, whispering, "Good boy, you've already done so much." But Max barely acknowledged the praise. For him, this was about focus, about ensuring that no one on this flight was in danger. Every sound, every smell, every subtle change in the environment mattered to him, and he reacted instantly to any hint of threat. Inside the cockpit, Captain Harris was still observing, trying to understand the situation. When Ramirez appeared at the cockpit door, the pilot leaned slightly forward, curiosity mixed with concern. "Captain, we've discovered a suspicious package," Ramirez said quietly. "Max alerted me and our specialists are handling it. Please stay calm and ensure the plane remains grounded until we clear everything." Harris nodded, impressed by the professionalism and quick action, though he could not hide the tension in his voice. "Understood. Thank you for acting so quickly," he replied. The investigation of the package revealed more than anyone expected. The devices were sophisticated, clearly constructed with care, and had the potential to cause serious harm. The experts confirmed that Max's instincts had not been wrong. If the package had remained on board unnoticed, the flight could have been in extreme danger. The realization made the passengers even more grateful, though most still did not know the full details. All they could see was a calm, alert officer and a heroic dog, ensuring that everyone was safe. Meanwhile, Max did not rest. His attention shifted to other areas near the cockpit. Ramirez followed him closely, recognizing that the dog was picking up faint signals of other hidden threats. Max sniffed under the seats, along the aisle, and around the cabin doors. His methodical approach was almost like a search pattern, carefully scanning every inch of the plane for anything unusual. Ramirez realized that this was the kind of thoroughness that had prevented disasters in the past and would likely continue to prevent further danger today. As the situation unfolded, the bond between Max and Officer Ramirez became even more evident. The handler trusted the dog's instincts without question, and Max relied on Ramirez's calm guidance to navigate the human environment. Together they formed a seamless team, able to respond to danger with both intelligence and instinct. The passengers, observing quietly, could sense that something extraordinary was happening. Even if they did not fully understand the details, hours seemed to pass in what was actually only a tense few minutes. The bomb specialists worked carefully to secure the devices, following strict protocols to ensure that nothing would go wrong. Max remained at the ready, his body tense, ears alert, and eyes scanning constantly. Every small noise, every unexpected movement was met with immediate attention. Ramirez stayed close, providing reassurance and guidance to both the dog and the security team. Eventually, the specialists confirmed that the devices had been rendered safe and removed from the plane. The immediate threat was gone, thanks to Max's quick detection and Ramirez's expert handling. The passengers, though still unaware of the full danger, breathed a quiet sigh of relief as the unusual activity outside and inside the plane began to calm. The flight could now proceed safely, and the airport authorities praised Max and Ramirez for their extraordinary work. Captain Harris, still in the cockpit, reflected on the events. He had flown through storms, handled technical failures, and managed emergencies, but nothing compared to witnessing a police dog detect hidden dangers with such precision. The calm professionalism of Officer Ramirez and the heroic instincts of Max had ensured that Flight 472's passengers would reach their destination safely. Harris felt a deep respect for both, understanding that their vigilance had prevented what could have been a major disaster. Even after the immediate danger was neutralized, Max remained alert. His mission was not complete until the plane and everyone aboard were confirmed safe. Ramirez smiled, knowing that Max's dedication went beyond ordinary duty. This was a dog who understood responsibility, safety, and the lives of those around him in ways that humans could not always achieve alone. Max had already changed the course of the morning, saving countless lives with his incredible sense of awareness and courage. The passengers eventually settled back into their seats, some glancing at Max with curiosity and admiration. They whispered among themselves, realizing that a true hero was in their midst, though they did not yet know the full story. Flight attendants moved quietly, reassuring them that everything was under control, while Ramirez and Max prepared to ensure the plane was fully safe before takeoff. The day that had begun as an ordinary flight had now transformed into a story of vigilance, bravery, and extraordinary instinct. Max, the police dog, had already prevented one disaster with the hidden contraband outside, and a second, more dangerous threat inside the plane. Officer Ramirez, calm and professional, had guided the situation with skill and care, ensuring that the passengers remained unaware of the danger. yet fully protected by the actions of a four-legged hero. The morning sun continued to shine over the airport, casting long shadows across the tarmac. For most, it was just another flight, Even after the bomb specialists had carefully removed the dangerous devices, the tension inside Flight 472 had not fully disappeared. Passengers whispered quietly, some still curious about the police dog that had been so active near the cockpit. Max, the German shepherd, remained alert, pacing slowly in the aisle, his ears twitching at every small sound. Officer Ramirez stayed close to him, understanding that Max's instincts might still pick up something unusual. The dog had already prevented 2 potential disasters in one morning, but his work was far from over. Max's attention shifted back to the cockpit. His body stiffened and he let out a low growl, different from his previous alerts. Officer Ramirez immediately noticed. "What is it now, boy?" he asked softly, keeping his voice calm so as not to alarm the passengers. Max pawed at the cockpit door, staring intensely at the small area where the co-pilot's seat had been. It was clear that the dog had sensed something that humans could not yet see. Ramirez carefully approached the door, knowing that he needed to assess the situation before allowing the dog any further access. Inside the cockpit, Captain Harris was focused on checking the systems once again, preparing for takeoff. He noticed Max pawing at the door and looked up, startled. "Why is that dog acting like that?" he asked, glancing at Officer Ramirez, who was just outside. Ramirez explained in calm, precise words that Max had detected something unusual, and that the dog's instincts were extremely reliable. Harris nodded, a mix of concern and respect in his eyes. He knew the airport's K9 units were trained for situations exactly like this, but seeing it happen in real time was different from reading about it or attending training exercises. Ramirez carefully opened the cockpit door, letting Max step inside. Passengers watched in quiet amazement as the dog moved with purpose toward the co-pilot's seat. Max sniffed around, his nose twitching, ears alert. Officer Ramirez followed, his eyes scanning every part of the cockpit for anything unusual. The co-pilot's bag, which had been left slightly open, caught Max's attention immediately. The dog barked sharply and pawed at it, signaling with unmistakable clarity that this was not an ordinary bag. Harris leaned forward, his heart pounding slightly. He had seen security checks before, but this was different. A police dog had entered the cockpit, and now he was pointing at a bag that had gone completely unnoticed by anyone else. Ramirez carefully approached and opened the bag, revealing another hidden package. The wrapping was sophisticated, designed to hide its contents. At first glance, it could have looked like harmless electronics. But Ramirez could tell immediately that this was no ordinary package. Inside, they found a small device with wires and a complex arrangement of components. It was unlike anything Ramirez had seen before, clearly designed with care and precision. His mind raced as he considered the implications. If this device had been carried on the plane unnoticed, it could have caused serious harm. The thought of passengers being at risk made him even more determined to handle the situation carefully. Max stood beside him, calm but alert, as if understanding the gravity of what had been discovered. The pilot and co-pilot were both shocked. Harris, with years of experience flying planes, had never encountered a situation where a police dog had directly uncovered a hidden threat inside the cockpit. The co-pilot, Lieutenant Young, looked at the bag with wide eyes, realizing just how close they had come to a potential disaster. Max had not only detected contraband outside the plane, but had also uncovered a dangerous device that could have caused catastrophic consequences in midair. Ramirez radioed the control tower again, explaining the new discovery. "We have another suspicious package inside the cockpit," he said. "The K9 unit has confirmed it. We need a specialized response team immediately." The control tower acknowledged the message and confirmed that a bomb disposal team would be dispatched right away. Harris and Young remained in the cockpit, cooperating fully while passengers were instructed to remain seated and calm. The flight attendants moved quietly through the cabin, reassuring travelers with gentle words and calm gestures. Max continued to monitor the cockpit, his ears moving at the slightest sound, his nose twitching at every new scent. Officer Ramirez patted him lightly, speaking quietly. "Good boy, Max. Keep focused." The dog barely acknowledged the praise, his attention fully on the task at hand. Max had a sense of responsibility and focus that went beyond ordinary training. He was determined to ensure that the plane, its passengers, and the crew remained safe. The bomb specialists arrived and entered the cockpit carefully. Ramirez and Max guided them, pointing out the bag and the suspicious device inside. The specialists worked with extreme caution, examining the device from every angle. Max stayed beside them, alert and aware of every movement. His presence was both calming and reassuring, a constant reminder that the situation was under control, even though it was tense. Inside the cockpit, Harris watched closely as the specialists disarmed the device. He was amazed at the precision and care required. The device had been designed to be small and easily hidden, but also potentially dangerous if mishandled. Harris realized that the quick actions of Officer Ramirez and Max had prevented what could have been a major crisis. He felt gratitude, relief, and respect all at once. Passengers, still seated, noticed the calm but serious activity near the front of the plane. Children whispered to their parents, pointing at the dog and the officers, while adults exchanged curious glances. Nobody fully understood what had been discovered, but everyone sensed that Max was a hero, quietly ensuring their safety. The air was filled with a mixture of tension, relief, and admiration. Once the device was safely disarmed and removed from the cockpit, Max's work was not yet done. He continued to scan the cabin, sniffing under seats, around luggage, and near the doors. Ramirez followed him closely, recognizing that the dog's instincts could detect threats that humans might completely miss. Every small sound or unusual scent could be important, and Max was meticulous in his search. Captain Harris finally leaned back in his seat, taking a deep breath. The immediate danger had been removed, thanks to the combined efforts of Max, Officer Ramirez, and the bomb specialists. Harris reflected on how quickly ordinary routines could change into high-stakes situations. He had trusted security before, but this experience gave him a new level of appreciation for the K-9 units and the people who handled them. Max had acted decisively, preventing a potential tragedy, and Harris knew that the plane and everyone aboard owed their safety to the dog's remarkable instincts. Ramirez patted Max on the shoulder again, whispering, "You did it, boy. Another disaster prevented." Max sat down calmly, his work completed for the moment, but his eyes remained watchful. He had already saved countless lives that morning, and though he did not understand praise the way humans did, he knew that his job was done, at least for now. The bond between officer and dog was evident to everyone watching. They worked together seamlessly, a team whose combined skills had kept the passengers safe. The passengers gradually began to relax, though curiosity remained. Some looked at Max with awe, while others whispered to the flight attendants asking about the dog and the officers. Flight attendants smiled and explained that Max was a trained police dog, helping ensure the safety of everyone on board. Children patted Max gently when he passed by, and adults nodded in appreciation, realizing that they had witnessed an extraordinary act of vigilance and heroism. Harris and Young checked the cockpit systems one more time, ensuring everything was functioning properly. Harris spoke quietly to Young, recounting the incredible events. "I've flown through storms, turbulence, and technical problems, but never something like this," he said. "That dog saved lives today, no doubt about it." Young nodded, still in awe of the situation. He had been part of many routine flights, but this experience would stay with him forever. Outside the plane, the airport security team completed their final checks, making sure that no other threats were present. Max remained alert, sitting beside Ramirez, ready to respond if anything else appeared unusual. The plane was now fully safe, the passengers were unharmed, and the crew had a new sense of respect for the work of the K-9 units. What had started as a routine flight had turned into a remarkable story of instinct, bravery, and quick thinking. Even after everything was resolved, the story of Max's heroism was far from over. Passengers would remember the dog who had quietly prevented disaster. Officers would recount the events with pride, and Captain Harris would carry the memory of the morning when a four-legged hero had entered the cockpit and changed the course of a routine flight forever. Even after the suspicious device was removed from the cockpit, the tension in Flight 472 had not completely faded. Passengers sat quietly in their seats, exchanging nervous glances, while the flight attendants moved carefully through the aisle, offering calm reassurances. Max, the police dog, remained alert, his ears twitching at every small noise and his nose constantly testing the air. Officer Ramirez stayed close, knowing that Max's instincts could detect dangers that humans might completely miss. The day had already been extraordinary, but Ramirez understood that the morning was far from over. As Max scanned the cockpit and cabin, he paused near the co-pilot's seat once again. His ears pricked up and he barked sharply, a sound full of urgency. Ramirez immediately noticed and knelt beside him. "Easy, boy. Show me what it is," he whispered. The dog moved toward a small compartment under the seat, sniffing and pawing carefully. It was clear that Max had detected another unusual scent, something that had escaped the human eye. The officer carefully opened the compartment, revealing a small hidden package tucked beneath the seat. Ramirez's heart raced. Each discovery made him more aware of the potential danger that had been quietly waiting on the plane. The first device outside, the second in the co-pilot's bag, and now this third package. It was clear that someone had gone to great lengths to hide multiple threats on Flight 472. The realization made him even more determined to handle the situation carefully. One mistake could have consequences that no one could predict. Inside the cockpit, Captain Harris and Lieutenant Young watched closely. Harris's hands gripped the controls lightly as he spoke in a calm, controlled voice. "Officer Ramirez, what else could be there? We've already found 2 devices." Ramirez explained the situation carefully, emphasizing Max's exceptional ability to detect hidden threats. Harris nodded, realizing that the dog's instincts had prevented a catastrophe that could have endangered every passenger on board. The bomb specialists were called back to the plane for a second inspection. They moved quickly but cautiously, guided by Max's precise alerts. Each package they examined required extreme care, and Max remained by Ramirez's side, alert for any sign of danger. The passengers watched quietly, sensing that something extraordinary was unfolding, though they still did not know the full story. Children held their parents' hands tightly while adults whispered, curious but unable to fully comprehend the gravity of the situation. As the specialists examined the new package, Ramirez patted Max gently on the shoulder. "Good boy. You've already saved so many lives today." Max sat obediently, ears still moving, eyes scanning, always ready. His attention never wavered. A constant reminder that instinct and training combined could achieve incredible results. Ramirez knew that without Max, the plane might have taken off carrying multiple hidden threats. The dog's vigilance had changed the course of the flight entirely. The new package contained small devices, carefully constructed and wrapped to avoid detection. Each one was designed with precision, and their purpose could have been catastrophic in the air. Ramirez realized that the person who had packed these devices had been planning carefully, attempting to hide their presence from both security and airline staff. Max had not only detected them but had done so quickly and efficiently, preventing a potential disaster before it could begin. Captain Harris exhaled slowly, his eyes fixed on the scene in front of him. He had flown through storms, turbulence, and mechanical failures, but nothing compared to witnessing a police dog uncover hidden threats with such skill. The co-pilot, Lieutenant Young, was equally amazed. The young officer had trained for emergency scenarios, but he had never imagined encountering a situation where a dog could prevent a potentially deadly event. Max's actions had left both pilots in awe, and their gratitude was deep and sincere. The passengers, now more aware of Max's presence and alertness, began to whisper among themselves. Some pointed at the dog, their faces filled with amazement and admiration. Others quietly thanked the officers for ensuring their safety. Even without understanding the full story, everyone could sense that this was no ordinary security check. Max had become a hero in their eyes, a silent guardian ensuring that the flight would continue safely. Ramirez guided Max through the cabin once again, checking for any other unusual scents. The dog moved methodically, sniffing under seats, near the doors, and around luggage compartments. Each movement was precise, intentional, and effective. Ramirez marveled at Max's ability to detect danger, a combination of natural instinct and extensive training that made him an invaluable partner. The bond between officer and dog was evident to everyone, a relationship built on trust, respect, and shared purpose. While Max continued his inspection, Ramirez spoke quietly with the bomb specialists. "These devices are small but dangerous. If the person who packed them had succeeded, the flight could have been in serious jeopardy. Max's detection was crucial." The specialist nodded, carefully examining the devices and documenting their findings. Each discovery confirmed that Max's instincts had been correct at every turn. The officer and his dog had already prevented multiple threats, saving lives and ensuring that Flight 472 remained safe. Captain Harris, still seated at the controls, reflected on the day's events. He had always respected airport security, but seeing a police dog act with such intelligence and precision left him with a new level of admiration. Max had prevented disasters that human eyes might have missed, and his courage had ensured that the flight could continue without incident. Harris felt a deep sense of relief, knowing that the passengers and crew owed their safety to the dog's extraordinary instincts. The bomb specialists completed their inspection of the cabin, confirming that all hidden devices had been located and safely removed. Max remained vigilant, sitting calmly by Ramirez's side but never letting his attention drift. The officer patted him gently, whispering words of encouragement. "You've done an amazing job today, Max. Everyone here owes you a debt of gratitude." The dog, attentive and alert, seemed to understand the importance of his actions, even if he did not understand praise the way humans did. Passengers gradually began to relax, though curiosity and admiration for Max remained strong. Children whispered to their parents, pointing at the dog and asking questions. Adults exchanged quiet nods and smiles, impressed by the dedication and skill displayed by the K9 unit. Flight attendants moved through the cabin, explaining in gentle words that Max had helped prevent a potentially serious incident, and the atmosphere began to shift from tension to appreciation. Outside the plane, airport security completed their final checks, ensuring that no other threats remained. Ramirez and Max stood ready, alert but calm, knowing that their work had been successful. The plane was now completely safe, and passengers could continue their journey without concern. The heroic actions of Max and Ramirez had transformed an ordinary flight into an extraordinary story of courage, quick thinking, and instinctive skill. Captain Harris and Lieutenant Young reviewed the flight controls one more time. Harris leaned back in his seat, taking a deep breath. "I've flown through storms, technical failures, and emergencies, but never a situation like this," he said quietly. "That dog saved lives today, without a doubt." Young nodded, still amazed by what he had witnessed. The morning that had begun as routine had turned into a remarkable example of vigilance, teamwork, and heroism. Max, sitting attentively near the cockpit, had already proven himself. Officer Ramirez knew that the dog's instincts had prevented multiple potential disasters and had ensured the safety of every passenger and crew member. The bond between man and dog had been critical, a perfect combination of human decision-making and animal intuition. The events of the morning would be remembered by all who were present, a testament to the incredible work of K9 units in ensuring public safety. As the plane prepared for takeoff, the passengers remained seated, now more aware of the extraordinary events that had unfolded. The murmurs of curiosity and admiration filled the cabin, a quiet celebration of Max's heroism. Officer Ramirez guided the dog one last time through the aisle, ensuring that every part of the plane was safe. Max, calm but vigilant, seemed to understand that the mission was complete. The dangerous devices were removed, the threats neutralized, and the flight could now continue safely. The morning sun continued to shine over the airport, casting long shadows across the tarmac. For most travelers, it was simply another day of travel, but for those aboard Flight 472, it had been a day of extraordinary courage, vigilance, and unexpected heroism. Max, the police dog, had saved countless lives through his instincts, training, and unwavering focus. Officer Ramirez had guided him with skill, ensuring that every action was deliberate, careful, and effective. Together, they had prevented what could have been a disaster and had turned an ordinary flight into a story of remarkable bravery. Even as the plane began to taxi toward the runway, passengers, crew, and pilots would carry with them the memory of the dog who had quietly prevented danger. Max had demonstrated the incredible value of instinct, training, and loyalty, and his actions would be remembered as a heroic example of what a dedicated K9 unit could achieve. The ordinary morning had transformed into an extraordinary story, one that would be retold many times. The morning that had started like any other had now become a day that nobody aboard Flight 472 would ever forget. The plane sat safely on the tarmac, the threats neutralized, and the passengers, though still curious and a little shaken, were finally able to breathe a quiet sigh of relief. Max, the police dog, remained alert beside Officer Ramirez, his body calm yet watchful, as if understanding that his job had been critical to saving lives. Ramirez, standing nearby, felt a deep sense of pride and relief. He knew that Max had not only prevented a potential disaster, but had also set an example of heroism that few humans could match. Passengers began to look around more closely, noticing the small but extraordinary team that had protected them. Flight attendants moved quietly through the aisles, offering gentle smiles and calm reassurance. "You've all been safe thanks to the quick action of our security team and Max, the police dog," one attendant said. The passengers exchanged amazed glances, many nodding quietly in appreciation. Children petted Max softly as he walked past, sensing the importance of his presence even if they did not fully understand it. Adults whispered words of gratitude, marveling at the bravery and intelligence of the dog and his handler. Captain Harris, still seated in the cockpit, reflected on the events that had unfolded. He had flown through countless emergencies, from mechanical failures to severe weather, yet nothing compared to witnessing the actions of Max firsthand. The dog had detected hidden devices that could have caused serious harm in midair. Harris realized that instinct, training, and trust between humans and animals could create a level of safety that was extraordinary. He turned to his co-pilot, Lieutenant Young, who nodded in agreement, still absorbing the day's events. "We owe our safety to that dog," Harris said quietly. "I've never seen anything like it in my career." Outside the plane, airport security officers continued their work, inspecting the area for any other potential threats. The bomb specialists had completed their careful removal of the devices, and the situation was now fully under control. Yet Max remained vigilant, sitting calmly but never letting his gaze wander. Officer Ramirez knew that the dog's presence alone reassured everyone that no further danger remained. The bond between officer and dog was strong, a partnership built on trust, training, and mutual respect. Max had not only followed instructions, but had also used his own instincts to detect threats that humans might have overlooked. As the news of the incident began to spread, the passengers grew even more aware of the extraordinary events they had been part of. Some took out their phones to quietly share the story with friends and family, while others whispered excitedly about the bravery of the police dog. Children were fascinated, asking their parents questions about Max and how he had discovered the hidden packages. Adults marveled at the skill and dedication of Officer Ramirez, recognizing that his calm guidance had been essential in allowing Max to act effectively. The airport officials held a brief debrief with the security team, acknowledging the incredible work of both Max and Officer Ramirez. The dog had not only detected multiple hidden threats but had done so quickly and efficiently, preventing what could have been a major catastrophe. Ramirez received praise for his professionalism and calm leadership, and Max, though he could not understand words, was showered with attention and gentle pats from the officers. It was clear to everyone present that the morning had been saved because of their teamwork and vigilance. Inside the plane, passengers began to relax fully, realizing that they were safe and that the flight could continue without any danger. Some looked at Max with admiration, understanding that he had played a heroic role in their safety. Others quietly thanked Officer Ramirez, impressed by the professionalism and calm decision-making that had guided the situation. Even the flight attendants, who had seen many unusual events during their careers, expressed awe at the dog's instincts and the officer's handling of the situation. Captain Harris spoke quietly to Officer Ramirez, stepping out of the cockpit briefly to shake his hand. "I can't thank you enough for your actions today," he said. "Max is extraordinary and your guidance made all the difference. We owe you both our gratitude." Ramirez nodded, his expression calm but proud. "It's Max's instincts that made the difference. He's trained, but he also has a natural sense for danger that's remarkable. I just follow his lead." Harris smiled, realizing that the plane and everyone on board had been saved by a combination of instinct, training, and teamwork that was rare and precious. Max, still attentive, walked slowly down the aisle, allowing passengers to admire him and even take small photographs. Children whispered excitedly to their parents, imagining the dog as a real-life hero. Adults nodded and smiled, appreciating the quiet courage that Max had displayed. Officer Ramirez walked alongside him, keeping a careful watch but allowing the passengers a chance to interact with the dog safely. Max's presence was reassuring, his calm and focused demeanor a symbol of safety and protection. The airline staff, airport officials, and bomb specialists all expressed deep gratitude to Officer Ramirez and Max. The small plane, once just an ordinary flight, had become a story of extraordinary heroism and vigilance. The actions of the dog and his handler had ensured that passengers reached their destination safely, avoiding what could have been a serious emergency. News of the incident began to circulate quietly, though the full details would only emerge later, emphasizing the bravery and skill of Max, the police dog. Passengers finally began to settle fully, with a renewed sense of calm and appreciation. The ordinary flight had transformed into an extraordinary lesson in vigilance, teamwork, and courage. Max, sitting attentively near the cockpit, seemed to understand the importance of what he had done. Officer Ramirez patted him gently, whispering, "You've saved lives today, boy. You've done an incredible job." Max wagged his tail slightly, calm but still alert, as if acknowledging the significance of his actions in his own way. The pilot, Captain Harris, began final preparations for takeoff once the plane had been fully cleared. He checked the controls, ensuring everything was in proper order, and glanced at his co-pilot. "We're ready," he said softly. The co-pilot nodded, still impressed by the events that had unfolded. Both knew that the presence of Officer Ramirez and Max had transformed a potentially dangerous morning into a story of extraordinary heroism. As the plane began its journey into the sky, passengers looked out the windows, seeing the airport below and reflecting on the morning's events. They had witnessed a remarkable example of vigilance and courage. Max had acted quickly, guided by instincts that humans could not replicate, and Officer Ramirez had provided the calm and precise leadership that allowed the dog to succeed. Together, they had prevented multiple threats and ensured the safety of everyone on board. By the time Flight 472 reached cruising altitude, passengers had settled into their seats, some still talking quietly about the police dog who had saved the day. Children pressed their faces against the windows, imagining Max as a true hero, while adults reflected on the bravery and intelligence that had kept them safe. Officer Ramirez remained watchful, knowing that the job of a K-9 unit was never fully complete until every precaution had been taken. Max sat loyally at his side, calm but vigilant, embodying courage, intelligence, and dedication. When the plane finally landed safely at its destination, passengers applauded quietly, recognizing that the ordinary flight had become an extraordinary story of heroism. Officer Ramirez and Max were met with gratitude and admiration from airport officials, airline staff, and passengers alike. The heroic actions of a police dog and his handler had prevented disaster, ensured the safety of countless lives, and left an impression on everyone present. In the days that followed, Flight 472's story spread throughout the city and the airport community. Max's heroism became a celebrated example of the power of instinct, training, and teamwork. Passengers, crew, and airport staff recounted the events, highlighting the incredible ability of a police dog to detect hidden dangers and prevent what could have been a serious catastrophe. Officer Ramirez received recognition for his leadership, calm decision-making, and ability to guide Max effectively through the tense and critical situation. Max, meanwhile, continued his duties with the same calm focus and vigilance that had saved Flight 472. He remained alert, ready to act at a moment's notice, and continued to build trust with his handler, Officer Ramirez. Their teamwork demonstrated the extraordinary value of K-9 units in ensuring public safety, illustrating how courage, intelligence, and instinct could come together to protect lives. Passengers would never forget the dog who had entered the cockpit, the handler who guided him, and the calm professionalism that had turned a potentially dangerous flight into a story of heroism. Max had proven that even a single dog, with the right training and instincts, could make a difference in the lives of hundreds of people. Officer Ramirez had shown that leadership, calm decision-making, and trust in instinct could ensure that every action was effective and precise. Together, they had created a story that would be remembered for years to come. Flight 472, once just another ordinary flight, had become a testament to vigilance, courage, and the extraordinary bond between a police officer and his dog, Max's heroes.